Welcome to NTD's China in Focus. I'm Fiona G, filling in for Tiffany Meyer. Our top story, former President Trump saying Taiwan should pay the U.S. for protection against communist China. How the Taiwanese premier is responding to the comment.
We are willing to take on more responsibility. We are defending ourselves and ensuring our security.
China's famed Three Gorges Dam discharging water at full speed. The goal? Lowering the risks for the over 200 million people downstream before a new round of flooding hits. The Pentagon taking steps to stop U.S. filmmakers from bowing to the Chinese Communist Party. And an exiled Chinese tycoon convicted at a fraud trial in New York. Jurors agree Guo Wengui conned his online followers in a billion-dollar scam. Before we dive into today's top story, we have some announcements to share. This week, NTD's Steve Vance and Tiffany Meyer will bring you live special coverage of the Republican National Convention. Former President Trump has been officially nominated as the 2024 Republican presidential candidate at the event. Take a look.
The biggest Republican event of the year. 4 nights, thousands under one roof, officially nominating their candidate for president.
America's comeback starts right now.
Watch NTD's live special coverage with Steve Lance and Tiffany Meyer on The Nation Decides 2024. Republican National Convention, 6 p.m. Eastern from July 15th through the 18th on NTD News.
Watch our special coverage of The Nation Decides 2024 tonight, Monday through Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern. Now back to today's top stories. Taiwan is responding to a comment by former President Trump. Trump told Bloomberg Businessweek earlier that Taiwan should pay the U.S. for its defense services, adding the U.S. is, quote, no different than an insurance company. Taiwan doesn't give us anything. Taiwan's premier responded by saying that relations with the U.S. are rock solid and the island is willing to take on more responsibility.
We will work hard to maintain the friendly relationship of both sides and continue to bring it forward. We are willing to take on more responsibility. We are defending ourselves and ensuring our security.
The Chinese Communist Party sees Taiwan as part of China despite never having ruled it. The U.S. doesn't have formal diplomatic relations with Taiwan, but has committed to providing the island with the means to defend itself. The U.S. is Taiwan's most important arms supplier. Washington has approved over $19 billion worth of arms sales in Taiwan, but delivery of those weapons has faced massive delays, partly because of a weapons shortage caused by the Ukraine war. Trump also said Taiwan has taken over almost all of U.S. microchip businesses. The U.S. leads in semiconductor design, though Taiwan manufactures over 90% of the world's leading chips. After Trump's comment, the share price dropped for one of the island's major chip makers, TSMC. Now that we know who's on the Republican ticket, more of their policy stances are coming into view. We're looking at remarks by Trump about Taiwan's defense and his VP pick, J.D. Vance, on China. NTD's Stefania Cox spoke with retired Colonel Grant Newsham, senior fellow at the Center for Security Policy and the author of When China Attacks, for insight.
Colonel, good to see you again. Just to begin with, Senator J.D. Vance's stance on China has, as I just said, come into sharp focus since he took up the mantle of vice president contender. Could you describe his stance for us there?
Sure. It's he recognizes China as a threat. He recognizes the harm China has already done. If you look at his background, both where he's from and the sort of his family situation, that he's seen the damage that has been caused by moving so much manufacturing over to China, and also the flood of fentanyl that killed 80,000 Americans last year and is getting up towards 1 million Americans killed altogether. He's experienced all of that firsthand. Also, being a Marine and also being in the Senate, he understands the Chinese military buildup and what a threat it poses to us. So this is someone who really understands the Chinese Communist Party, and is not going to back down and knows we need to do something about it. It's nice to see this for once.
Now, I want to look at some recent remarks by Trump. He says that Taiwan should pay the U.S. for its military defense of the island. How could this approach impact U.S.-Taiwan relations, do you think?
Oh, it's going to get a lot of people's hair on fire, but I try to remind myself that Mr. Trump's from New York. They're all like that. The language is a little odd, but it's what he says. And at the end of the day, Mr. Trump understands the threat from China. He also understands Taiwan's importance. And you'll find that his statement actually tied it into Taiwan's domination of the semiconductor manufacturing business. And he made a comment that they had taken it from us or from somebody. In actual fact, the Americans handed it over in the 90s and the early 2000s. I used to work for Motorola and watch them do it firsthand. But Mr. Trump will have some good advisors around him, and he'll get this right. But it's his way of looking at things or saying things. But also keep in mind that he's kind of got a point in the sense that the Americans are like a fire department, and you've got fires breaking out all over the place. And then you ask yourself, well, who are they going to send the fire trucks to if they've only got so many? And it's going to be people who have made sure that their house is not a fire trap and who have done everything they possibly can to prevent a fire and to fight it when it happens. And thus, it is important for Taiwan to do everything it possibly can defense-wise to show that it's pulling its weight, it's done everything it can, and thus it's going to get the American help. And so it's there's a two-part deal here, and the Taiwanese do have to do a lot more than they have been doing. And I think they will. But I say that's an important thing to keep in mind, is that the countries that complain about statements like Mr. Trump has just made, you have to ask yourselves, have they done everything they possibly can to show the Americans, to show President Trump and a future administration that they have sort of done everything possible before they expect Americans to come die for them?
Thank you so much, retired Colonel Grant Newsham. Always great to speak with you.
Well, thanks for having me.
China's Three Gorges Dam opening 9 spillways to release excess water on Wednesday. The move aims to prepare the dam for the potential of massive flooding upstream as torrential rain continues. Sitting downstream from the dam is a population of over 230 million and one of the richest regions in China. The dam's overflow warning level measured in at 544 feet Monday, just 30 feet less than its maximum capacity of 574 feet. Meanwhile, over 80 rivers in southern and central China have swelled past their own warning levels. NTD spoke to residents affected by the flooding. To protect their identities, we've distorted their voices.
Our town has been flooded. An ancient town has been submerged. Areas next to the Yangtze River have suffered the most.
Moving to central China, residents in Henan province say record rain has cut power and left residents stranded. A video clip shows one resident trying to drive a car through the floodwaters.
My husband was asleep, but then he felt as though he touched water. He woke up and saw the water rising in our house. Then he woke me up. Our bed is now floating in the water.
This is the Century Plaza. See how deep the water is with me standing on the steps. If I move a few steps down, the water would be at my waist.
Moving north to Shanxi province, floodwaters triggered landslides. Authorities have activated emergency response protocols in Shandong and Henan provinces. Dozens of local dams are speeding up the release of floodwaters. Forecasts say the onslaught could impact 7 major rivers through mid-August. The world's leading supplier of microchip-making gear saw its share price fall on Wednesday. Dutch company ASML is facing investor concerns over the potential of tighter U.S. restrictions on its exports to China. Here's more.
Shares in chip gear giant ASML tumbled on Wednesday despite a strong second quarter performance. Europe's largest technology company beat forecasts and showed a rise in AI-linked bookings, but investors were alarmed by the possibility of tighter restrictions on the Dutch firm's exports to China. Bloomberg reported Tuesday the US has told allies, including the Netherlands, it may take action to restrict exports of chip equipment to China if they fail to do so themselves. ASML is already restricted from selling most of its advanced product lines in China. The company declined to comment on the report.
Stocks for U.S. semiconductor makers also fell over 4% Wednesday. That's following the Bloomberg report and former President Trump's remark that Taiwan should pay the U.S. for its defense services. NVIDIA, a company known for the high-end AI chips it makes, saw its shares fall about 4%. Shares of other U.S. chipmakers like AMD, Qualcomm, Micron, and Broadcom were all down over 5%. Intel bucked that trend, trading up 5%. The Biden administration put limits on U.S. chipmakers last year, blocking them from selling advanced chips to China. The move, driven by concerns that AI chips could boost the Chinese military. The restrictions have made a dent in U.S. chipmakers' revenue. NVIDIA's first quarter revenue from China stood at 18%. That's compared to over 66% in the same period a year ago. The Pentagon is going one step further to stop U.S. filmmakers from bowing to the Chinese Communist Party. It proposed a set of new rules Tuesday. Film productions often reach out to the U.S. military for assistance. For example, Top Gun Maverick used jets and aircraft carriers on loan from the DoD. But the military is also banned from helping film productions that bow down to Chinese censors. The Pentagon started implementing the new policy last year and is now in the process of defining its criteria. As for the newly proposed rule, it would require film productions to certify their projects have not and are not likely to bow to Chinese censors. The Pentagon would also send project officers to monitor the productions. And DoD officials would check in with production crews if details surface that suggest a project might comply with Beijing's censors. An exiled Chinese businessman and outspoken critic of Beijing's Communist Party convicted in the U.S. on Tuesday. His crime? Stealing hundreds of millions of dollars from his online followers.
Jailed since March 2023, Guo's convictions ranged from racketeering conspiracy to wire fraud. His 7-week trial ended Tuesday. Federal prosecutors in Manhattan alleged Guo raised over $1 billion through fraudulent investment and cryptocurrency schemes from 2018 to 2023. Guo reportedly told his followers some of the investment would go toward challenging China's government. Prosecutors say Guo instead spent the money on luxury goods, including a New Jersey mansion, a red Lamborghini, and a yacht. His defense tried to portray Guo, a former real estate mogul, as an ardent dissident who flaunted his wealth as part of his critique of the Chinese Communist Party. Guo is set to be sentenced in November and could face decades in prison.
That's all for today's China in Focus on YouTube. We're now sharing a shortened version of our program here after being demonetized for 3 years. If you'd like to support us, consider donating. Find us at donorbox.org/China-in-focus. Or subscribe to our partner platform, Epic TV, where you can watch our full episodes. Just click the link down below. Here's what to look out for in our second half. A panel at the Hudson Institute reflects on Beijing's years of persecuting a spiritual group, both at home and abroad. Though China has evolved into the world's second-largest economy, more Chinese people are finding themselves in poverty. What's causing the financial struggles? U.S. experts studying China break it down.
The vast majority only just realized the current social situation and that today's problems are created by the CCP system after experiencing the hammer-like blows of the CCP.
And China's new home prices falling at their fastest pace in 9 years. We have analysis on what this means for the world's second-largest economy. More on that after the break, here on China in Focus. Thanks for watching China in Focus. I'm Fiona G, filling in for Tiffany Meyer. See you soon.